must exclude the MK party and the economic freedom fighters. Which parties represent approximately 25% of the South African electorate.
Is that common cause?
Yeah, well, it's common cause in the sense that it's not disputed. We have pleaded it, and it's not disputed, so it's common cause to that effect. But I think it's common cause at all levels, at least from my recollection of the agenda application, there was no dispute about that. Sorry, my lady. Which part are you saying is it common cause? The exclusion or the percentage?
The precondition.
Oh yes, yeah, no, that's common cause. That it was a precondition. You'll find that, my lady, in you'll find it in the founding affidavit, my lady. I'm just finding the actual passage where we talk about Doomsday Coalition. Can I find it? All right, I'll find the passage now, my lady.
Yes, take your time.
Yes, I'll read it. I just want to do it so that I get it out of the way. Okay, my Leonard Junior will find it. But yes, until I find it, my lady, it's pleaded specifically that the DA set this precondition.
Sorry, my lady, it's not an issue. I can confirm that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm indebted to my learned friend. So it is common cause. Yeah. It's also, my lady, common cause. The percentage again. I don't think it's you remember in MK1 we set out the various percentages of which party got what.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So let's then say, to round off that point, it's common cause that the DA set a precondition, which was, as we know in the law of contract, obviously accepted by the ANC, that those two parties must be excluded. And by so doing, by that act, the very foundation of the agreement, statement of intent, is the exclusion of at least 4 million South Africans from political participation or determining the destiny of their country. Then, my lady, it's also common cause now in the sense that, again, that it is not opposed.
Can I come back to what you just
yes,
said?
This is the important one, my lady. Yes, please.
Yes. When you say they're excluded from participating, you're not saying they don't have a vote.
No.
They have a vote, and they have voted.
Yes, in the election.
In the election.
Absolutely, yes.
And they can go to Parliament.
Absolutely.
And they can make their voice heard in Parliament.
Absolutely.
So what you have said is qualified by that.
Yes, madam.
When you say they don't have a voice,
yes,
you say they are not properly represented by the term.
Yes, yes.
Government of National Unity.
Absolutely.
Because as I understand the argument, your clients say it's not just a name. This is what they call themselves, but you say no, it's not just a name.
Yes.
You say that it has, it's definitive of a certain model.
Absolutely.
Am I correct?
100%, my lady.
And you say that that model has a particular, is a term of art.
Absolutely.
A political term of art.
Yes.
It means something.
Yes.
It means something. So that is the starting point in relation to, as I understand it, in relation to where the argument flows from.
Yes, my lady. My lady, before, well, firstly, I agree with your ladyship, but before I respond to that, may I give your ladyship that reference? I know it's been considered, but just for the sake of completion, you'll find it in the founding affidavit, paragraph 64. That's 02-165. There's a lot of confusion about this numbering. I hope we're on the same page. 02-165. Yes. Or whatever other variation. Yes. Yeah. And it says, and I'm just getting rid of this, but I'm not going to belabor it because it's been considered. In fact, the DA, which is a signatory of the SOI, specifically stipulated the exclusion of these two major parties as a precondition to its own participation in the current government, which has been accepted by the ANC. The DA characterizes any coalition which includes these two excluded parties as a doomsday coalition, which must be avoided at all costs. But coming back to what we're discussing now, my lady, your ladyship is 100% correct that do they have the vote? Yes. Do they participate in the legislative arm of the state? Yes. Where the exclusion, my lady, is the exclusion, firstly, as I say, from the so-called agreement, but the legal effect of that is the exclusion from the executive arm of the state. So to the extent that there's an exclusion, I accept your ladyship's qualification. It is a qualified exclusion. I can't argue against that. So at best, let's say it's qualified to the exclusion from participating in the executive arm of the state. But our respectful submission, my lady, will be that political exclusion is political exclusion. Whether it's exclusion from this but not from that, it's like what happened during apartheid. You might have said, no, you can swim here, but you cannot swim here. The fact that you are allowed to do certain things doesn't diminish the exclusion from what you are excluded from. So that is that exclusion, qualified, as your ladyship correctly points it, is a hallmark or a fundamental idea, foundational idea of the so-called government of national unity. Now, and we will argue, my lady, very vociferously that just like apartheid itself, any arrangement whose foundation is the exclusion of millions of South Africans, or at whatever level, cannot be called national unity without insulting those people. Because if national unity is it's not just a loose term, it's a legal term. It has been dealt with, my lady. There's something called the National Unity and Reconciliation Act of South Africa. There's a lot of case law, not least of which the McBride case, where the concept of national unity is dealt with extensively by the Constitutional Court. So, ladyship captured this. I was smiling when the ladyship was giving that summary, because that really nabs into what we're talking about. That this is not just a name. No, it's not a name like Mary or Temba, which it's a concept which has, as your ladyship correctly said, some meaning, and we're saying that this government might be a government of all sorts of things, but it's not a government of national unity.
But where does one find, and I think that we have to, that's the second place that we have to start.
Yes.
So we understand it's not just a name, it's a political term of art, if I can term it.
It's a definable thing.
And what does that, what are the ingredients
of that?
Of what a GNU is.
Yes. Okay.
Because I see that you rely on definition.
Yes.
you rely on a political, an Oxford dictionary of political terminology for a definition.
Correct.
And what we know is that there have been governments of national unity through the ages. One of the more famous ones was when Churchill took power after the war.
Please, I'm not out of disrespect as you're speaking. Can I try and
Of course. So please do what you need to.
Thank you.
So we know that national unity is something that has been part of international political
discourse.
Yes. And are we not directly in that discourse here? We're determining what the term means.
Yes, Malady. Malady, yes. So I'm not patronizing your leadership, but that's an important question. Let's do it like this, Malady, because this is a crucial part of the case. If we go past the fact that it's not just a term, it's a definable term. Then secondly, we say, what are, which is really your leadership's questions, what are the features? If I say this is a bus and not a car, you'll say, why are you saying it? I'll then have to explain why.
Yes.
The leadership is quite correct. And then the third aspect of your leadership's point is that what is the idea that it symbolizes, whether it's Churchill's GNU or the Mandela's GNU,
or Israel, or there are countless examples. China.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we do have it as part of a political.
Yes.
It's positioned as part of a political.
Absolutely. Yes. Just as we know.
Ideal.
Absolutely. Yes. Just as if we say constitutional democracy, we know what that means, and there might be variations from country to country, but we know what that means.
Yes.
The leadership is quite correct. Now let me answer the question, Malady. Firstly, we start with what I call the dictionary definitions. And obviously, they were also drawn from what leadership and I just discussed. And the Oxford Dictionary of African Politics defined it as one that brings together a number of rival leaders and political parties in order to promote national unity. And you'll find that at paragraph 61 of our founding affidavit. Which is 19-164, I think. Brings together a number of rival political parties in order to promote national unity, underline that, and political stability. Governments of national unity are often formed after a political crisis. Wikipedia says it is, and this is a more exact, it is a broad coalition government consisting of, underline, all parties or all major parties. This underlining. So it's either all parties, in other words 100%, or all major parties in the legislature, usually formed during a time of war and other national emergency. That again, we know what that is. So, my lady, from these definitions, and I'll go to others, the two things that come out are the following: that you have, and we've put in there, and that has not been denied, that the average is 85%, 90%, because you may never get 100%, but it has to be a substantial high number of participation. 100% would be great, but 85 to 90% is accepted.
But that is an incident of the political debate.
No, it's not.
The percentage is an incident of the political debate.
Yes.
So where you say, well, it's got to be 90%. Well, what if it's 70%?
Yes.
At what stage in the debate does it fall below the required the required majority,
Yes,
the
yes.
notional,
Yes.
if you like.
Yes. No, my lady.
Required majority.
Yes, I hear your leadership. No, it's not a function of the political debate, because if we say to change the constitution, you need a substantial amount for certain clauses, not less than 75%, let's say. Then that's it. Then once that threshold is set, it's set. You can't say, well, what if it's 74? Well, if it's 74, it's not certain.
Well, yes, but this is not an exactitude.
Well,
It's a political debate in relation to what that sliding scale means, what it reaches, what it doesn't reach. And as you say, it's not a 2/3 or of that nature. We're not talking about percentages on the basis that they are laid down as required. We're talking here, as I understand, about ideology.
no. Absolutely not, Malay. No, it's not ideology. It's quantum. We are saying that if you have a government that is 51%, you can't call it a government of national unity, all right? That's a question of science. It's not that is not a government of national.
Look, you can call it a government.
Yeah, you can call it a government. Yes, of course.
Whether you can use the word unity and in what context that can be used is the debate that you are having.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
the debate that is being had.
Absolutely.
Now we know that that national is a term that is also a political term of art.
And
It's
unity.
used. So if we take national, your client, as an example, calls itself the spear of the nation.
Yes,
So there's a national element
yes,
there.
absolutely.
The ANC says that it is a national Congress.
Correct.
And this is true all over the world. One wants to, by using this term, one wants to promote inclusivity.
Absolutely.
So that's where we are in relation to the debate.
Yes. Yes.
And
I'm with you.
and we are having this debate because it's an ideological debate.
My lady, with the greatest respect, it's not. We'll get to the ideological debate later. This is a matter of law. Is there a majority government? Let's say, for example, what is a majority government? A majority government is that which represents 50% plus one of the electorate. That's it. It's nothing to do with ideology. It could be the fascist government or a communist, it doesn't matter. If it represents 50% plus one, it's a majority government.
Because that's the model.
Yes.
That's the electoral model.
Yes, yes.
And the executive model that we follow
Absolutely,
in
yeah.
South Africa.
Yes. So that's where I am now. That okay. Let me put it more crassly, my lady. You cannot. Let's take the word national.
Yes.
Now, yeah, a political party can exaggerate its importance and call itself the international party of this with 2 members. That's fine. Yeah. Okay. And the global universal party of the world. Yeah. Nobody is going to stop them from doing that. So whether but the word national in a court of law must have a meaning. Right? National in this context means South Africa. Right?
It's of the nation.
Of the nation as a whole.
Yes.
Right? Now, let me ask a rhetorical question. Can anyone say that something which excludes 4 million South Africans is national? No.
Well, maybe they can't, but in the same way, because that's inaccurate, but in the same way as the example you've just given of the enormous, exaggerated name party, that's inaccurate.
Yes.
But does it mean they can't call themselves that?
No, my lady, it doesn't. They are free to do so because they are not the SABC. But the SABC, which is a national public broadcaster, cannot feed us as citizens with inaccurate information.
But is it inaccurate to say this is what they call themselves? They call themselves the GNU, and we're calling them the GNU because that's what they call themsels. In so doing, we are not aligning ourselves with any one or other position. And the Democratic Party, we may not think that they're very democratic at all. But we can't come to court and say, well, you can't say you're democratic, because that's an ideological debate.
No, my lady, I'm trying again.
Yes, no, please.
Yeah, this has nothing to do. The Democratic Party can call itself whatever it wants. It is not an organ of state, and it is not a public broadcaster. So it is free to call itself whatever it wants to call itself. We are here in this court about an organ of state and the duties that accrue from that fact that you are an organ of state.
But let's just back up, because we're not talking about, when you say we're talking about an organ of state.
Right, and a public broadcaster.
And a public broadcaster.
Yes, my lady.
Whatever I say after this very interesting argument,
yes,
and I acknowledge it's an important argument, and it's something that we have to grapple with seriously.
I appreciate it.
When all is said and done, a case like this is important because it will set a precedent.
Absolutely.
So I say, well, you can't call yourself a government of unity because you're not a government of unity. And we accept factually that that is not the case. So that is a term which is inaccurate, and it's a name that you call yourself, but you may not use it.
Sure.
That precedent will mean that somebody could come to court and say, you can't call yourself the Communist Party. So I am bringing to court an application that says whenever the SABC uses the term Communist Party, it's far more than a name. There's an ideological basket of things that it means internationally in political discourse.
Correct, my lady.
And you can't call yourself a communist party if you're not a communist party, because what about the people that are really communists?
Okay.
There are millions of them, and don't they feel that they're being misrepresented?
Yeah. Okay. My lady, I'll try for the last time. The Communist Party or the Liberal Party or whatever, if the day it becomes an organ of state and then it becomes a public broadcaster, then it cannot call itself inaccurately. Your ladyship has correctly used the word inaccurately twice. So that's the nub of the issue. The SABC is not allowed to give inaccurate information.
But it can call somebody by its name,
no.
Even if that name is an inaccurate name.
No, my lady.
And my example of the Communist Party, to say, well, the Communist Party is not an organ of state. Well, it's an organ, and it has a particular political identity.
Yes.
The question is not whether it's an organ of state or not. The question is, can the organ of state in issue, the SABC, can they use the name Communist Party if somebody comes and says, no, that's a completely that is completely at odds with Marxist theory.
Yes,
and your manifesto is this, and Marxist theory says that, and you can't call yourself
the Marxist Party.
And if you call yourself that, then we're not allowed to say that you are the Communist Party. We have to say that you're the so-called Communist Party, for example.
Okay. We're getting to the right place then, my lady. Without being waylaid by the examples.
Yes.
Let's come back to the principle.
Yes.
The principle is this, my lady. Whenever there is a national debate about something, and that national debate, irrespective of the merits, who's right, who's wrong, but the fact that it's a debated issue, the SABC is by law not allowed to take sides in that debate. So let's accept that. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. That's what Klassen J said. That he actually used those words. He said it cannot take political sides. So that's a tick. The second issue, my lady, is that is what your leadership calls so-called. And your leadership is quite correct, if the SABC, then there is that debate, its behavior must indicate that there is that debate by either saying the so-called or in fact, ironically, my learned friends in their heads do that, but it's too late now. They say the so-called government of national unity, and they say they put it in inverted commas. It's too late. We don't want it from them. We want it from their client. So the leadership is quite correct. So the SABC's duty is then to reflect, because it can't say if the Springboks call themselves a netball club. The SABC can say, well, the netball club just won the Rugby World Cup. It has to say, well, the so-called netball, because that's what they are calling themselves, as the leadership say. But we know that they are not. But it can't say, good morning. Today the netball club was playing against the All Blacks. It can't, because the SABC has a duty to give the citizens of this country accurate information. And I take your leadership's point. They're not going to go and argue with those rugby people and say, you're not a netball. That's not their job. But they must then indicate, because there'll be a national debate, are they a rugby club, are they a netball club? Then they must say, well, the so-called or the... But what they may not do, which is what happened here, is to adopt for themselves, not to say these people are calling themselves this, but to say we are adopting it for ourselves, that they are the netball club.
Well, can I tell you why I don't find that analogy helpful? Because when you are dealing with one sport or another, it's not a political debate. Communism, democracy, governments of national unity, what they mean, what they don't mean, these are political debates. And what I'm asking you is this the place to have those debates, this court?
Oh my God. No, my lady, I hope your leadership is not attracted to that. My lady, if we come here and we say this thing is calling itself a political party, right? But it's not a political party, legally speaking. How can you say that's a political debate? That's a legal debate about the definition of the thing. It doesn't matter if it's about religion. The other one calls it a church, calls itself a church, and we say it's not a church. And the court would say, no, that's a religious debate. No, please.
It may be.
Yeah, it may be, but in a court of law, it's about.
It may be a religious debate, and that may not. That may be a place where the court should not tread.
Oh, well, then we must abolish the court system, because every case is about something.
You're wanting to put me out of the job.
Yes, without causing unemployment.
Before your ladyship's age of retirement.
No, my lady, on a serious note, there is no. I was explaining this to somebody. There's no such thing as a court case. There isn't. A court case is about something. It's about an accident. Somebody crossed a red robot. Well, that's the case about that. It's about a debate in a church. It's about a debate in a sporting field. It's about a debate in a company, whatever. Then we must never, it's about our water, it's about this or the other.
Well, it's about rights.
Yes, it's about rights. So, and there is such a thing in section 19 of this book called political rights, right? So this notion, which is really obnoxious, put by our learned friends, that this is not about the legal issues and obligations of the SABC as a public broadcaster, but a political debate. Well, the fact that it's a political debate does not mean it's not a legal debate. Otherwise, we wouldn't have political rights here. Okay?
Well, when you say it's a legal debate, we have to come down to definitions. What is a GNU?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we started.
Yes, that's
this
exchange.
testing that we're doing between one another.
Yes,
so how does one define a GNU?
Thank you, Mallet. Yes.
Because and as I said to you, the difficulty I have is it about percentage? It can't be.
Well, it must be also about percentages, my lady. With the greatest respect, are you going to have like that's what I said? If it was 2%, then call it a government of national unity? No. If it's 40%, is it a government of national unity? No. If it's 51, is it a government of national unity?
Well, it wouldn't be 2% because our electoral system doesn't permit of that.
Fair enough. Let's start
so
at 50.
Let's start at 50
plus 1. Yes. Let's say 50% plus 1.
Yes. So then we have a government.
Yes, we have a government.
So then we have at 2% we don't have a government. Yeah. So we have a government. We have the fact that the government is entitled to govern.
Yes.
It's entitled to govern.
Without putting words in your mouth, my lady, we concede that it's a government. So let's not.
Yes, of course. So we then come to the third leg of it, and that is unity. And I think we know that
it's not national.
It's a government. We know that the government governs the nation, and we know. That it calls itself this conglomerate, if I can term it that. They call themselves a GNU. So I think the term that we come down to is what is unity, and is that not where the debate resides, and is that not where the debate has resided for decades within the political sphere?
Yes. My lady, the answer is no. But I'll also address, if your ladyship is correct, what the answer is. The answer is that it's not the term that is under, as I said, we consider it's a government. It's a government. But the term that is under contention is national unity. It's not just unity. And I'll explain why. And the national is what do you call it? Adjective. Unity is the noun. So it's the government of national unity. Okay. So let's start with the adjective. I'm saying, my lady, that something which is not, and I'm talking legally now, forget about politics here, something which is not representative of the nation as a whole, is not national as a matter of law.
Well, then the ANC can't call itself the ANC.
Okay, well, I've already answered that. The ANC can call itself anything it wants. It can even call itself the party from the moon. Yeah. But I'm saying, if we come here to court and we say, okay, now the point we're debating is whether it's a party from the moon, the lordship will say, of course. They may call themselves that.
If I say, and set a precedent, because that's what we do here, for better or for worse. If I say, given political contention around a particular name or term, if there is that contention, or if that contention reaches a particular point,
correct,
then you may not call yourself that, and the SABC, whether you call yourself, you can call yourself anything you want, but the SABC may not call you that. Even if you call yourself an African National Congress, well, somebody might say, well, it's not African. No. This is not the manner in which your manifesto reads cannot encompass the whole of Africa, so it's not African.
My lady, I'm not going to address that again. Simply to say that a party can call itself whatever it wants to call itself, and that if there is a national debate about the name ANC, that's a different matter. There is a national debate, and I think that's what's missing from what we're debating here, is that when there are controversial matters, and my learned friends have considered this point somewhere in there.
Yes.
That it's a controversial. Yeah.
There's always controversy in politics.
Well, there's controversy in everything, my lady. The controversy could be about whether this is the Catholic Church or not. Let's forget this politics thing. We could be here about whether this church that just formed itself down the road is entitled to call itself the Catholic Church. Okay? So this politics thing is just a red herring.
Well, that's why let's take it out of the political arena.
It's a red herring to scare the court into saying, no, we're not going to enter a politics. Forget the politics. Assume it was about the church.
You see, then to create that platform.
Yes, my lady.
Anybody could start a debate. And then the question would be, well, is there a national debate? In the Dark Ages, there certainly was about whether Catholics were right or whether Protestants were right and who should be burned and tortured.
Absolutely.
So that was a big debate.
Yes.
So now if you have that debate, what if you have no debate? But the party starts a debate and then comes to court and says, well, now there's a debate. Because there was a stage when this debate didn't start, as I understand it, with the name. It started after the name.
No, it did.
It started with the name.
It started with the name. The facts, my lady, what if, the facts before you are the facts before you. What if someone started a debate? Well, I don't know. But on the facts before you, the debate, my lady, was started. Can I come back to that, because I've now lost the point that we were...
Yes, I'm sorry, don't let me take you out of your train of thought. That's not what my probing is for.
I know, my lady.
I want to get these things right in my own head.
Absolutely,
because I'm the one that's got to write this judgment, and you say that it's important, and I want to get it right,
yes,
Mr. Mpofu.
No, I know. But I'm just saying, my lady, I'm apologizing to you to say the fact that I'm going to that other topic doesn't mean I'm not going to answer what you say. Yeah, I just want to complete the point that I was making, which is that the concept of national unity in South Africa, anybody who thinks that is a plaything is is really in a different world. National unity in this country, it has been explained in the case of McBride, is something very, very serious.
Very serious.
And something which must be built, and something which must not be made a political plaything, or people think that it's it can just be frivolously proclaimed.
But there's no reason why people can't have serious debates outside of a courtroom.
No, that's not what I'm saying about it. I'm saying national unity is a specific constitutional concept.
Yes.
Let me just leave it at that. Yeah. And by the way, to come back to you, there's also this notion that government of national unity is I don't know, is something made up by politicians. If you go to Annexure B of this book, you will find the following heading: Government of National Unity, National Sphere. And then it goes on for many sections. And then later, it says Government of National, Annexure C, Government of National Unity, Provincial Sphere. So the Government of National Unity is not something unknown to our law. We don't have to be debating whether is it a nebulous. It's a legal concept.
Well, it's not defined.
No, it might not be defined, but it's a legal concept. Okay, then of course we are here. If it was defined, we probably wouldn't be here. If it says, an orange is something with this and that, then we can't come here and debate what it is. We come to debate here because it simply says, well, there's a fruit that is this and the other, and then we have to come and debate whether it's an apple or an orange. Okay. So the point I'm simply making is that Government of National Unity is a legal term, a constitutional term. It exists. It has been referred to in sorry, my lady, if you leadership, just give me 1 second.
Yes, of course. Take your time, Mr. Mpofu.
Yeah. One of them. In that case, 233, it must be Ngobo. Ngobo CJ said this: freedom of expression, bringing it home now to freedom of expression is a right to be exercised with due deference to, among others, the pursuit of national unity and reconciliation. It can be the ground for excusing the citizen of the newspaper. That's not the point. But the point I'm making to you, my lady, is that the Constitutional Court and the Constitution have used this term. So it's not just a term, grabbed from the air.
They've also used the term democracy.
Yes, which is also more important.
They use many, many terms. But the question is whether I can say that the SABC is not allowed to refer to the name because of the ideological debate. So we know they call themselves the GNU. In the same way as we know what your party calls itself, what other people's parties call themselves, we know. And that's a matter of common knowledge out there.
Okay, let's leave that, my lady, because I don't think it's going to...
Perhaps
I can't.
Perhaps it's an opportune time, Mr.
It is, my lady,
for the tea adjournment.
Yes, it is. But can you just throw the next debate without building on it? My lady, this case is about one thing and one thing only, and it is about the obligations of a public service broadcaster. Let me put it like this, my lady. The SABC of old, which is what we are juxtaposing this against, called the organization you just spoke about, called Nelson Mandela a terrorist.
Yes.
Okay? The only reason they called Nelson Mandela a terrorist was because the government of the day called him a terrorist. Right? And in the same way, a public broadcaster that says, actually they say it in their own words, that says to you, I'm only calling it this because the state calls it that, or because the ANC called it that, or because the president called it that, is behaving exactly in the same way as the government that called Nelson Mandela a terrorist because he was called, not because it had made its own research or whatever, but simply because the state, the powerful state of the day, called it that.